यहाँ से तो हो रहा है, अब देखो आ रहा है। Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry for a small delay in starting this program. So it is my proud privilege today to have you all hearing on a topic which I'm sure is of interest to all. Now, we are talking of the lab part mainly of IVF. And that means we are going to talk on all the media consumables which are required in the lab, IUI, IVF. And we have none other than Angel Abraham. She is a postgraduate in biotechnology, and she would be taking this whole lecture. And if you have any questions, please type in the chat box, and we are here to answer. Can we ask our embryologist, chief embryologist, Angel Abraham, to start on this topic? That means culture, media, and consumables which are required in IUI and IVF. And I am chairperson, Dr. Rita Bakshi, speaking from RISA IVF and IRFT, that's our technology, our education institute. And this is our educational endeavor to teach all. So Angel, if you can please start on the topic. Angel?
Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Rita for giving me an opportunity to talk about culture media and consumables that is used in an ART lab today. So first, let's move into one of the important ingredient of an embryology lab, which is the culture media. So first, as we come into media, there are actually a lot of different types of media that we are using in an IVF lab. And each media that we are using, we are going to take care of. For example, sperm, oocyte cumulus complex, the embryos, pre-compaction embryo, the post-compaction embryo. So all these different cell types have got different culture media. Though the ingredients are same, their ratio of the ingredients are of different level. So mainly the uses of media and prevents the cell from dying out or any kind of evaporation. Feeds the cells means it gives food or nutrition to the cells, controls the environment. It means to control the pH of the media so that it does not cause any kind of stress to the embryo, or whether it's embryo, whether it's sperm cells, whether it is oocytes. So no tension should be created so that it will be a detrimental effect to all these. And it also helps these cells to prevent from drying. Now, coming to the main media components. The main media components are water, salts, carbohydrates, proteins, metabolites, vitamins, buffers, and antibiotics. Of this, water is around 99% of media contains water, and and all the rest makes the other person. Now, broadly, we can classify media into 4 groups: media for cleavage, and media for blastocyst. Now, what is media for gametes? Gametes, it include both the sperm cell as well as the egg cell. So the media also is defined depending upon how we start from the sperm or the oocyte till its blast or embryo or the cleavage stage. So coming into the gamete stage, what we need is during the oocyte pickup, we need a follicle flushing buffer or the gamete buffer so that the oocyte pickup is done. We get the oocyte cumulus complex. All the blood and all the other contaminants or whatever is present in the bulb should be removed. 1 second. Hello.
Angel, it's clear. You can start. You can go on.
Okay. Okay. Sorry for the small interruption in between. So as I said, I was talking about the media that we use for gamete follicle flushing buffer, which is used to while we are using the blood particles and
Sound just vanishes in between.
so that we can
Voice is not good.
a clean OCC complex in our incubator. If blood in the
Angel, 1 minute. Angel, you will have to start on this again. Angel?
Is it okay now? Or remove the
Better remove
Should I
that.
take out? Hello?
Yeah, too many instruments together, I think, are logged in together. So can't hear you very well.
Is it okay now, ma'am?
Yes,
Is this quality good?
Absolutely, absolutely good. If you can start on this slide again, please.
Okay. Sure, ma'am. Okay. Again, once again, I'm sorry for the interruption that was caused. So right now, I would like to start from the beginning of the slide. That is, we were talking about different media that we use in our lab, and it is divided into media used for cleavage and media used for blastocyst. Now, when we come over here, gametes, it includes both the and the sperms. So over here, the media that we use in this of the oocyte blood or from the follicular fluid, and then we have to keep it in a particular dish. Similarly, while preparing the sperm also, we use media which is used for the sperm media, so that the sperm can also be prepared. Like this, our gamete preparation step is over. Now, next comes the fertilization. Now, fertilization, we all know there are mainly 2 types. Either you can do a conventional fertilization or we can do an ICSI. Now, for FERT, in this procedure, we need this highest enzyme or the FERT media. And if we are doing the ICSI procedure, we would require the PVP media also. So, these are the media that we use for fertilization. Now, next
I'm just going to interrupt you.
Cleavage is still
Angel, 1 minute.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just going to, because your voice is breaking. I'm not sure if I'm audible better. So I'm just going to again for you. you said that for the egg and the sperm, we have different media, right? And when we are starting, we require a flushing media, which is a buffered solution, because it is going to, we are going to handle the egg for a long time outside. So it's a buffered media.
Yes.
And this follicle
Yes, ma'am.
flushing media that she said
Yes.
you are using for the egg pickup. And you can take your time in this. So once you transfer it to a culture media, because then it requires a bicarbonate, it requires a CO2 to survive, and then it will require a different media. So this is again to say that the egg we have taken out, and we have used a flushing media. Finally, she said what you require is a fertilization medium, and this medium, if you are not doing an ICSI, you are putting it in a FERT medium. But if you are planning an ICSI, then we have to denude the egg by using a hyaluronidase. And for the sperm, we'll be using a PVP to immobilize the sperm, right? So our media till here, so we have, she'll be of
Yes,
course
ma'am.
how to prepare the dishes and what kind of dish to use. But as far as medium is concerned, here we have used a follicle flushing medium, and then we use a FERT medium the next day, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Go on, Angel, go on.
Okay. Then it comes to a cleavage. That is, even if we do a normal in vitro fertilization, which is a conventional IVF, or whether we have done our ICSI, and then ICSI procedure, we have to place this medium, that is from day 0 till day 3. And if it is for normal conventional IVF, the next day we have to come, we have to denude the cells, the oocyte. Again, we have to place those in a cleavage medium. So cleavage medium, in this, the growth of the embryo takes place. Finally, if we want to take it to day 5, we then use the blastocyst medium, which is the 4th part.
So, Angel, if you can clarify again, after we have given you the eggs in your petri dish, in the test tube, you put them in the petri dish, and then what do you do? If you can just physically tell the process.
Is it for normal conventional IVF, ma'am?
Tell again for both.
Okay. So for normal conventional IVF, once we have already added the sperm to we then keep it inside our incubator. We leave it in our incubator. The next day we come and we denude to check the PN stage, to see the FERT rate, whether the fertilization has happened. And before checking all these, we have to prepare our culture dish, which will have the culture media, that is which is written as cleavage media over here. That is called the culture media. Now, once we have prepared the culture media, we have to take out our conventional IVF dish. We have to denude those. We have to check the PN stage, check the FERT rate, and then we have to transfer it into this new culture dish. So that is what we do in normal conventional IVF. If it is in a normal, if we have done our ICSI procedure, what happens is that it is already remaining in the culture medium. We have already, after the ICSI procedure, we had transferred it into a culture dish. We just come the next day and we check the FERT rate. Even if we not check, some embryologists don't check till day 2 or day 3. Some, if there is an in-house embryologist, however, it depends upon the embryologist to check the rate, the FERT rate, or not to check the FERT rate. So that happens in the cleavage step. Now next comes the blastocyst. That is when we have to take this till the blast stage, which is day 5. If once we have to take this to blast stage, then we have to change the media. Now in coming sections, in the coming slides, I'll be giving you the difference, how many type of culture system are there, and in detail I will tell about the culture systems over there. Now this is a general explanation of what I have said before. Now the gamete media is mainly to prepare the oocyte and sperms for IVF or ICSI. It contains amino acid, buffering agent, as well as antibiotics. This is an example of sperm as well as oocyte cumulus complex. Now next, this is how we do we just wash and prepare the sperm using the media that we have used for using the gamete media. We wash and prepare the sperm. Similarly, we wash and keep the eggs also ready for whatever manipulation we are going to do.
1 minute, Angel, if you can tell us about the sperm washing here, because you haven't put on the slides for washing. What kind of media are you using?
We have got, it depends upon, first we have to have a analysis of the semen. Once we know that the semen sample has less waste or less any kind of contaminants in that, then we can, it depends upon the andrologist or the to which type of preparation they need. Swim up method, or else we can go for a single wash method, or else we can use the double density method. Mostly which we use in an IVF lab, particularly for any kind of IUI or IVF or ICSI procedure, is the double density method. In this, we have got two density gradient, and then we layer the semen sample, and then we undergo the centrifugation process. After that, we take out the pellet, we remove the supernatant, we again just resuspend it. We get a final pellet in which we remove the supernatant and add only very small amount, maybe 0.2 to 0.5 ml of our media, and then keep it, and then it is used for our procedure. Whether it is IVF, conventional IVF, most of the clinicians might be knowing which are all the sperm preparation techniques. So either by seeing out the semen sample, by analyzing the semen sample, one will have to
Angel, I think we can't hear you at all. Angel?
About which kind of preparation method they
Angel, your voice is not clear at all.
Can you hear me now, ma'am?
Yes, now it's clear, but it's actually breaking a lot.
So should I check my net?
Yeah, I think the net connection, there's some problem.
Yeah.
So sorry for the interruption. Actually, there's a bit of delay in the connection. So what she was telling about was more of how the sperm. First, we need to prepare the sperm, and then we move on towards the insemination of if we're doing an IVF, conventional IVF, or we are doing ICSI. So for the sperm, she was saying that we first need to check whether it is how are the analysis. We have to do an analysis. In the analysis, we need to do what is she having, if some sperm count is normal or not, or it is some abnormality there. If it is normal, then the most commonly used method is density gradient, in which we prepare. So there is two densities. They are the silica. These are the silane coated silica particles, and they are about 45 or 90 density when we use a double density, or if we are using a single density, so either 95, 90, 45 or 90 density gradient is used. And then we prepare the through this. And then we move on to the next step, which is the flushing she was talking about. So is the connection back?
Garima ma'am, can you hear me right now?
Yeah, it is clear actually. It's better now.
Ma'am, can you just mute the others?
Yeah, sure.
Dr. Garima?
Yeah, sure.
I don't get. You say your name is what?
Can everyone just mute their microphones, please?
Also, give the Francis of Foreign. And again, this. Can you hear me? Yes, because somebody called me, either if you or your colleague. He said he was coming to ask about my name. I told him, and then he hung on. What is it about? It's the same MTN Usu branch. What is it about this? I said somebody called from the same MTN Usu branch. Either it's you or a different person, because he said he introduced himself as Usu and asked, "Who am I?" And I gave him my name, and the person hung on.
Can I start?
Yes, and you're asking me the same thing. That's why I just don't know.
Can you just unmute and
What is it
tell?
about? What is it about?
Okay, so coming back, it is just, this slide is just an explanation of what I have told before. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes, it's better now.
Okay. So hope you have understood this slide. Dr. Garima has also given a small explanation of what we have to do with the gametes that we have got. And then we just washed the semen sample. Similarly, we cleaned up our oocyte cumulus complex and kept it inside our incubator. Now, this is a general idea, or just showing what all media that we are used for washing the gametes. They may gamete buffer, sperm media, sperm gradient, spermient, sperm cryopreservation buffer. This is just in detail. I'm just showing which all media can be used while we are preparing a semen sample, as well as when we are preparing the oocyte cumulus complex also. So it contains the follicular flush buffer, oocyte freeze, oocyte thaw. All these media are included. Now, next step is the fertilization step. As already I'll explain once again. This media helps in facilitating the formation of the zygote from the egg and sperm cell. Like we know, the fertilization, it can happen in two ways, either by a conventional IVF or by ICSI. So the media mainly for fertilization, this also contains amino acids, carbohydrates, along with antibiotics. The fertilization media mainly consists of fertilization media, culture oil, hyaluronidase, and PVP. If it is just for conventional IVF, we just need the fertilization media and the culture oil. But if we are going for an ICSI, then we need the Hyas enzyme, which will help to remove the cumulus cells so that we know which is a mature oocyte. And then we need this PVP so that we can immobilize the sperm cells, and then we can take one sperm and inject into the mature oocyte. So these are the media that is required during fertilization process. Now next is the most important, cleavage media. It is mainly for the growth of embryos from day 0 to day 3 or day 5. Over here, the culture systems can be divided into two. That is a sequential culture system or a single step culture system. So from the name itself, we can get an idea what are they. So here I have given you a very easy diagrammatic representation to show the difference between a sequential culture system and a single step culture. In sequential culture system, from the name itself we know, here it is from day 0 till day 3, we are culturing it in a special medium. And after day 3, that is from day 4 till day 5 or day 6, we are culturing in another medium. So we can see the difference what the medias are containing in this pre-compaction state and the post-compaction state. In pre-compaction state, that is from day 0 to day 3, it contains the non-essential amino acids. It needs reduced glucose rate, but pyruvate and lactate should be in the higher rate. And when it comes to post-compaction, that is after day 3, from day 4 to day 5 or day 6, they need non-essential amino acids, essential amino acids, but an elevated glucose level and low level of pyruvate and lactate. So this is the difference that we can see in the sequential system. From day 0 to day 3, we culture the embryos in a less glucose level and high pyruvate lactate level. Whereas in the post-compaction, we culture the embryos in an elevated glucose level and less pyruvate and lactate. Whereas in a single step culture medium, all these, whatever components of the media, like essential amino acid, non-essential amino acids, glucose, pyruvate, everything will be present in the media, and it depends upon the embryo which media, which component they want at their growth level. They just choose it from them and have it. So that is why it is called single step. Just one media is required from day 0 to day 5. Whereas in sequential, it requires 2 sets of media for pre-compaction embryo and for post-compaction embryo.
Wonderful. Angel, here, can we go back on the slide, please? Yeah. So
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
You explained very well, but just for the audience, you know, there are, again, we are making it clear. So we are sometimes doing a day 2 or a day 3 transfer, and sometimes we are doing a day 5 or a blast transfer. So it is so important that the day we do a pickup is called the day 0, and day 3 transfer, what she's calling pre-compaction. So compaction is occurring on day 4. So the pre-compaction. So if you were to do only the first day 3, what you will require is a media which has a non-essential amino acid, a reduced glucose, of course, pyruvate and lactate. Now, these are common in the 2 media, but if you were to go to compaction and day 5 blast, you will have to change the media on day 4, which has an elevated glucose and essential amino acids in it. And also, as we are saying for embryologists, sometimes are, you know, they will do the fertilization, and then they will straight away in a single step culture medium come back on day 5. So that media has got everything, and you are leaving the embryo to choose kind of, you know, what to take. So, you know, in the beginning, the embryo will take a low glucose and then will go on to high glucose. So if you ask me the success, previously we were not very confident about our single step culture media, but I think more and more experience is now there, and we are as confident of our single step culture medium also. So this is where I think the main slide of the whole talk, where the difference between the culture media. Angel, Vaishnavi is asking in between, why do you require oil? I think we are coming to the oil also, and you can probably answer that there. But she wants to know why culture oil is used. Do you require oil or not?
Yes, of course, we require oil because see, if we keep this media normal at 37 degrees, that is what our temperature is. The temperature is maintained at 37. So if it is not covered with oil, then there are chances of evaporation. The whole pH will be, there will be a imbalance in the pH. The osmolarity, all these will be changed if we are not covering with the oil due to evaporation. That's why in order to lessen or to just not the evaporation happen, we are using this oil. We have to take care also that the oil should also be toxin free. We have to, the media oil that we use should also be toxin free. We have to take care of that also.
And do you have to culture the oil also?
Everything should be pre-incubated.
Sorry, do you have to incubate the oil also?
Yes, of course, ma'am. Yes, we have to incubate the oil also before our cases.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
What
Next
is it?
slide, please.
Okay. So this is the just general, I've just written it, cleavage medium, cryopreservation and the thawing kit. Cryopreservation, I have written it because once if it is, we are doing a transfer, if we have got 10 embryos, if we are doing a fresh transfer, after doing the transfer, the remaining embryos, we have to cryopreserve them. And when needed, we can thaw it also. That's why all this media is included with it. Now here I have just given an example of two different types of sequential culture medium. The above, it is an example of Vitrolife, company Vitrolife. Over here it's showing there is oil, MOPS which is used as a gamete media, IVF which is used as the FERT media, G1, G2. These are the two media which is used for pre-compaction and post-compaction. So these are the media, an example of a sequential media. Similarly, I have shown here also Origio, the media from the company Origio, which is showing a FERT media. It has got a cleavage media, which is pre-compaction, and blast media, which is post-compaction. Next is an example of one-step media. So this is Sage company, which has got one-step media, where all the components of the media are there in this single media, and it depends upon the embryologist whether they have to change the media in between or not. Usually it is better not to change the media and leave the dish as such from day 0 to day 5. Here is another example of Irvine Scientific. This is another company, commercially available media, which is a one-step media. That means all the components are present in this media. Now here we come just what we have told. I'm just writing it again just to explain it. Mainly designed for day 5 or blast stage of embryo development. It is used mostly in a sequential culture system. The products include the blast media. Here also cryopreservation, as I said before, if we are doing a fresh transfer, we have to transfer the embryo, and if we have got any remaining blastocysts, we have to freeze them up. That's why the cryopreservation and the thawing kit is also included with the media set. Now, in general, I would like to come to a summary of what we are doing, what all things or what all medias are we are using in the lab from day 0 till day 5. So on day 0, that is the day when our pickup is taking place. We do the follicular flushing where the follicle flush buffer is used. We wash the oocyte. After that, we keep it in the incubator till the required time. And at this procedure, we prepare our semen sample. Then we go to the next step. After all this, after our 1.5 hours incubation time, the next is our fertilization. If we are doing a normal conventional IVF, we just place the oocyte cumulus complex in the FERT medium and add the semen sample, which is processed semen sample. Next, if we are doing an ICSI procedure, then we have to denude the oocyte, so the oocyte cumulus complex, so that all the cumulus cells are removed. For that, we need the hyaluronidase media. And then after post-denudation, after denuding the oocytes, we keep them directly on the cleavage media. We do our ICSI procedure after that. We keep it in the cleavage media. Now, ICSI procedure does need the help of PVP also. As explained, PVP helps to immobilize or slow down the sperm so that we are able to catch the sperm, immobilize it, and introduce into the egg. After post ICSI, then we do the culture, which is in the cleavage media. If it is a normal conventional IVF, then also we use, after the post fertilization, we used again the cleavage media. After cleavage, after day 3, if we want to take it to day 5, and if we are using a sequential media, then we have to use a blastocyst media. Then it depends upon the day of embryo transfer, whether it is a cleavage or a blast. If it is a cleavage embryo, that is a day 3 pre-compaction embryo, we do the embryo transfer on day 3. And if there is any other remaining embryos, we either cryopreserve them, we cryopreserve and store them. So that is what we have written in this. This slide gives a summary of what all procedures till the transfer or till the vitrification or cryopreservation of the sperm, of the embryos or blastocysts that we do in our lab. Now we come to our consumables. What are consumables? There are mainly different types of consumables that we are using in an andrology lab as well as an embryology lab. Mostly it is plasticware. It is made, all these have to have a medical grade of USP 6. That means it must exhibit very low level of toxicity, and it is usually made up of polystyrene and polypropylene. And it is vacuum packed, and it has been passed through gamma irradiation so that there is no contaminants present on it. And it should be mouse embryo assay tested as well as non-pyrogenic. So the plasticware, whatever the consumables that we are using in both embryology lab as well as andrology lab, should undergo all these steps so that it can come to a level of usage in an IVF lab. Now I'll be showing what all consumables we are using in an andrology lab. First is the 3 ml pipette. This is a 3 ml pipette. We have got 15 ml centrifuge tubes. These are the tubes which are used for the centrifugation procedure. We have got the semen container. It is in this container that we get the semen collected. We have got a glass slide onto which a drop of the semen sample is put, and we check the count and motility. We have got the cover slip. This is the cryo vial which is usually used for freezing our semen sample. We have got a 14 ml tube. In case if we want to mix the cryopreservation, we can use this 14 ml tube also. If we want to mix it, we can mix it in this 14 ml tube and then cryopreserve it in this 2 ml vial. Then this is the aluminum holder where we place our semen sample and keep it in the vapor phase of our liquid nitrogen container. So these are the main plasticwares that we mostly use in an andrology lab. And this is an IUI catheter or the Stilett. Now coming to embryology lab, these are the main. Now I'll be telling what all main consumables that we are using in an embryology lab. First will be the OPU needle. This is called a scanning dish. It is in this dish that we scan the follicular fluid. We'll be pouring. We should not pour a lot of liquid into the scanning dish. If we do like that, then we will not be able to identify the OCC. So make sure you pour only sufficient amount that can be taken care of, that can be looked by the embryologist so that we can scan the entire fluid. Now this is the center well dish. Here you can see a center well, and there is here also, this is called the moat. So it is in this place we take the FERD media, whatever media, and then we cover it with oil, and mostly we place all the OCC in this center well dish. Now this is the ICSI dish. You can see the ICSI dish. Compared to this, there is difference. This is the ICSI dish. Now this is the 4-well dish. Mostly we can culture here. It depends upon the embryologist how they want to do their culture. They can either do it in a 4-well dish, they can do it in a small dish, they can do it in a center well dish. So this is one of the dish which can be used for culture. Now this is a small dish. Here embryologists can use the small dish for doing a drop culture. Now comes the denupettes. Now this is one of the most important tool of an embryology lab, because without this pipettes we will not be able to do anything. Because denuding pipettes, as the name suggests itself, these pipettes are used to denude the OCC. OCC is the oocyte cumulus complex, which is covered with a lot of cells around it. Since the cells are present, we will not be able to see whether it is a mature M2 oocyte or whether it is an immature oocyte or whether it is a germinal vesicle. So in order to identify which is a mature M2 oocyte for an ICSI, we need this pipette. And these denuding pipettes, they are the most precise micro tools for the manipulation and transfer of oocyte and embryos. They are of medical grade, medical polymers, and they provide flexibility. Unlike the plasticware, they are, even though they are flexible plastic. so that they don't provide or they don't make any scratches on the dishes. And also it comes in different size. You can see here I have written the size also. For oocyte denudation, we normally use a size of 135 to 140 microliter, and in embryo we use 160 to 175 micro. Blastocyst, which is bigger in size, 270 to 300. So these are the major size of denuding pipettes that we need in an embryology lab. Now this is another ART tips or the Gilson tips. This is normally used while doing our oocyte pickup, oocyte cumulus complex. That is, when we are doing a pickup or when we take out the OCC, we are using these pipettes. It is with this pipette we'll be able to take the oocyte cumulus complex. Now, next, coming to the embryo, they may be rigid, soft, or intermediate, and mostly you are using a soft catheter. But in cases where special catheter is needed, or there is some difficulty in the embryo transfer, we use the rigid or a. Now there are mainly 19 centimeter to 23 centimeter. So these are some of the examples of catheter, ET catheter. So during an ET procedure, most people have seen how we do the ET. We have got an outer catheter and we have got the inner catheter. The outer catheter is a quite rigid one, which is given to the clinician. The clinician will be putting the positioning where we have to put the embryo. And this is the catheter, inner one, which is really flexible and soft catheter. And it is in this catheter that we load the embryos. So once the clinician is ready for the embryo transfer, the clinician will position their outer catheter and then will inform the embryologist. And once the embryologist already loads the embryo, then goes and puts it into this outer catheter, and slowly the clinician pushes the embryo to the right position. So this is just an example. We have got different catheter lengths differing in the length, diameter and stiffness. It all depends upon what kind of a transfer it will be. If it is a normal transfer, then usually we use a soft catheter. But if it is a little bit difficult, then we use different catheters. Now, once the embryo transfer, everything is over. Now, one of the most important device that we use in an IVF lab is the cryo device, or the device that we store our embryos. So there are mainly different varieties of devices, and here also it depends upon the embryologist which device to use. Each device has got its own pros and cons. So this is a cryo loop. Here you can see at the end there is a loop. Over here we store the embryos. Similarly, this is a cryo leaf. This is a little bit space consuming because it is a little bit diameter is high, a little bit higher compared to a normal cryo lock. So here it is in this position that we load the embryos. Similarly here, these are different diameters. These are the different devices which show. All these are cryo devices, but you can see the difference what is there, and it depends upon the embryologist which cryo device they have to use, and you have to store it in liquid nitrogen. So these are some of the main consumables that we are using in an andrology and an embryology lab. So ma'am, I think Dr. Rita, you can take over since the topic has almost, I've covered the topic to my best.
So I think very well covered by Angel, and I'm sure if you have any questions, we'll be more than happy to answer. Angel, as far as freezing is concerned, is there any difference between a day freezing and a day 5 freezing? I mean, if you think it's more difficult, you have to take out more water, it's too big a cell. What is it exactly that makes a blast freezing more difficult?
Actually, blast, we can do both day 3 and day 5 freezing, but day 5 freezing, since it has a lot of water inside, the blastocele contains a lot of water, And there are different techniques to do a day 5 freezing also. So some people, they just take out the water and just give a small prick. They try to the water is contracted and then they do the freezing. So what I do in my lab is probably I will be freezing almost all the embryos in day 3. And when we have to do a day 5 transfer, then I just thaw the day 3 embryos, culture it for 1 day, and then go to day 5. In such a way, I'll be able to see the viability of my embryos as well.
Yeah, but if you were to freeze a blastocyst itself, then what do you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you prick the embryo? How does it work? Or do you put it in a higher osmolality solution to draw out the water? How does it work?
As per the commercial media that we are using, that is Kitazodo media, we don't need to remove or prick, or we don't need to use any solution to take out the water. So the protocol of Kitazodo media that we are using in our lab is that if we are freezing a blast, we just have to place it in the equilibration solution for 12 to 15 minutes. So in that way, I personally don't take out or give a prick to the blast. I just directly put it into my equilibration solution, leave it for 15 minutes. I can see the embryo contracting and it just regaining its size. And then I do the freezing procedure.
Wonderful. And the same thing about thawing and putting. So I agree with you that, if we
Yes.
are, Dr. Abhineet Vajpayee is asking which one is advantageous, PVP or sperm slow during the selection of sperm?
Both are of the same thing only, because both are slowing down the sperm process. So initially what I am using in my lab is PVP. I've used sperm slow also, but both of them are same. Like the main role of this media is to ideally slow the sperm so that we select them. There is nothing they are contributing, that thing they are giving energy, that thing is not there. That media is not giving energy to the sperm or anything. They're changing it. It's particularly just to slow down the sperm. So either you can use a PVP or a sperm slow.
It doesn't make too much of a difference. And are you
no?
Okay. And what about are you fond of sequential? What are your results? 1 minute before that, Vaishnavi is asking, what are the defects in oocyte encountering during ART? Sorry, say that again. You said what are the defects in the egg? Okay, so she wants to know what kind of defects you will see in the egg, during, when you are looking at the egg. So do you find them immature, GV, what exactly? And you must tell them that dark looking eggs or with not an expanded cumulus are not the best eggs. So a light colored egg with a sunburst appearance of a cumulus is an egg that you're wanting to look at. So I think the moment we give her the eggs, Angel is able to say, no, they are looking very dark. So, they are not your best quality eggs that we are seeing. And after that, she's also wanting to know, Varsha is wanting to know which media, sequential or single. So first, if you can tell, what are the defects in the egg that you see during ART?
Now, one question which I would ask is, do they want to know about the oocyte cumulus complex that I get at the time of pickup or after my denudation process? Because both have got two categories.
I think you can tell both. You can tell both.
Okay. So normally after the pickup, when I get the oocyte cumulus complex, by seeing the spreading of the corona cells or by seeing the cumulus cells, we can identify which maybe at least to 80 or 90% that approximation is correct. If you see a like sun ray kind of an appearance, not dark cumulus, light colored cumulus, and a healthy appearance, we know that it's going to be a mature M2 oocyte of good quality. On the other hand, if the cumulus cells are so tightly packed, they are so intact and they are dark colored, that means it is going to be an immature oocyte. So this is our assumptions which we do. Sometimes most of the times it turns out to be correct, but there are cases where we have seen, even if the oocyte cumulus complex is tightly packed, it has turned out to be a mature oocyte. So there are pros, there are plus to it as well as minus to it. So this is our just assumption. Now this is what I talked about oocyte cumulus complex. Now coming to a denuded oocyte. Once you denude the oocyte, there are a lot of differentiation that you can see in the oocyte. You have to take note of the first is the zona pellucida. You have to see the thickness of it. If it is dark in color, thick zona, then that time itself you have to think about how can we make it, or while doing the embryo transfer, what extra you can do. Because such thick zona oocyte, they cannot, it's better not to do a conventional IVF because it is difficult for the sperm to penetrate into the cell. So in such cases, it will be better if we do an ICSI. If it is ICSI, it will be better so that we can just drill, so that we can just go inside, inject the sperm directly into the egg. Now, second thing is to see the cytoplasm, how it is, whether it is there are granulations present, whether it is moderate granulate. So then we have to see the perivitelline space, if there is any debris in the PV space. Then our polar body. So if you ask about the grading of the oocyte, there is a lot of grading, and according to that grading, I will be telling the quality of oocyte, whether this is a good quality oocyte, whether it is an average or a bad quality oocyte. And mostly the highly granulated oocytes or dark appearing oocytes, they are actually mostly, they will be most of the time they will be of poor quality. In such cases, we would suggest that you can do a normal conventional IVF because they will not be able to stand the ICSI procedure. Because once you do the ICSI, once you inject it, you will be able to see that the entire ooplasm might be coming out because they are so fragile. They don't have the capacity. So by studying and by seeing the oocyte morphology, we will be able to assess how we can go forward, whether we have to do it all starts from the oocyte cumulus complex also by assessing them, whether we can do a conventional IVF or a ICSI procedure. Now, next question was, which media is better, sequential or single? See, we can never know, no paper has shown or it has told that one media is better than the other. Sequential as well as the normal single step media, both are equivalently good. They are equivalently good in also. It depends upon the embryologist which, because in my lab, I have used both a sequential media and a single step media. Both have given me the same result, and I cannot say that one media is above the other. So it depends upon the embryologist. If the embryologist is available in the lab all 24/7, and if they are able to change the dishes in between, if they want, they can come and they can do all, everything is provided, then they can go for a sequential media, or else they can use a single step media also.
Angel Prudence says that, sequential, because otherwise everybody would shift on to a single step media. So don't you think, instead of asking the embryo to choose what to eat, you give them what to eat, and then they know, how to grow. So if as you said, availability of embryologists, of course, is important. But if you are available all the time, then do you think sequential is a better idea than single step? Agreed, single step is not bad. We all understand that. But like, if you are there all the time, would you like to, try sequential also, because you're not sure that all embryos are going to reach the blast stage also. So you're, checking on day 3 and taking a call whether you think it will reach day 5 or not. What if we were using a single step and we wanted to do a day 3 transfer? Would you still take out in between and check out whether, how they are doing? Because that will finish the...
Okay, ma'am. I'll just give an explanation. So even I have used sequential media. I was also in support of sequential media. But what I have found is that sometimes even sequential media, some embryos are not able to reach the day 5 level, even if I'm using a sequential media. That is, I was using Vitrolife. To be specific, I was using Vitrolife media. I cultured my embryo from day 1, day 0 to day 3 in G1 media. And once when I changed it, in some cases, I found that it has not reached up to the level that I expected. So that was when I introduced the single step media, one step media. Now here what the difference that I saw was that even though if it is called as one step, I changed the dish on day 3. That means my embryos are not lying in that media for more than 48 hours. I made a just a protocol that I need to change the media after 48 hours. And then I use the same single step media. And when using that, I found that my embryos were getting better results, showing better growth when compared to the sequential. That's why I said I would like to give importance to sequence. I give importance to both, but I've seen this difference also. So it depends upon the embryologist to take up the call whether they want to do a single step, one step media they are using. They can change in between. Of course, on day 3 they can change it and they can give them pure a new culture, new single step culture media. And similarly, the embryos, they are always have the right to take whatever they want from that media and grow accordingly.
Although I think the company which made a single step media, the idea was not to change in between, and that is why it was called single
Yes.
step. But you are speaking from
Yes.
experience, and you think that if you
Yes.
change it on day 4, so and still use the single step, so that means you are giving the choice to the embryo, and you think that
Yes.
for media, instead of forcing to eat, you letting them take a call on what to eat.
Yes. Let them take what they want.
Yeah, so this is probably where experience comes. As Dr. Abhinit is asking, so you are using a single step sequentially, right?
Yes, because I'm changing it on day 3. It's not for all cases. That is all. That's what I'm telling. Only an embryologist, when they see the growth of embryos, will they be able to decide how they have to take it. Because I'm not telling for every cases I will be changing it. But when I see the growth, I can better understand. On this day, I have to change the media, and then I change it and keep it in fresh media. Some cases, if I see it's going well, then I don't even change the media.
Okay, so I think we have the luxury of having an embryologist who is in-house and is there all the time. Probably most of the people don't have that luxury. So I think everybody who does a batch IVF, it does make sense, because then you will decide that you coming on day 0 and then you will straight away come on day 5. Vaishnavi is also wanting to know about Pixie. So can you tell something about the Pixie dish and what is this whole thing about Pixie?
Ma'am, Pixie dish is mainly, it has got the dish has got hyaluronan droplet on it. In such dishes, what is the help or what is the advantage of using such dishes that once we add the semen sample, once we add the sperm, the good sperms or which are the most viable good sperms, they go and stick onto this hyaluronan, and from there we have to pick the pick the sperm, and then we immobilize and inject it. Now this case, this Pixie dish, as we see it, it's a physiological ICSI dish, but the problem is that it's not comfort. We cannot comfortably use it for all cases. One thing, and this dish, though we tell that it has got a hyaluronan drop, only once you see the dish under the microscope will you understand the difficulty, because a whole bunch of sperm is getting, if it is a normal count sample with all the normal semen parameters. But in cases with oligosperm sample, even though the count is there, but little bit less, maybe less than 15 million per ml. In such cases, if we use, it might, so it depends upon the category of the semen sample and then decide whether you actually need a Pixie dish or not. If it is not, in normal regular cases, it is better to use an ICSI dish.
Wonderful. So the Pixie dish has got hyaluronic acid, and we know that a good sperm is the one which sticks onto hyaluronic acid, and then it is easier to. But as you are saying that if you have too many good sperms, then a clump of it is there. And so this makes sense,
Yes.
especially when you have oligosteinoteratospermia, when you know that the sperm are not, you will be difficult to choose. So from between ICSI and IMSI, you can probably say we have something called a PIXI.
A pixie dish.
Yes, so where you can still choose a good sperm,
Okay.
if you don't have an IMSI, which gives a 7,200 time magnification of the sperm. So the vacuoles and the whole structure of the sperm is much clearer in IMSI. But if you don't have that, then a PIXI dish does make sense. Now, Varsha,
Yes.
probably, your voice broke off in between, still wants to know, we've done just an ovum pickup. We've given you those tubes which are maintained with the maintained temperature. They come to your laminar flow. And if you can just give the one or two more steps again, which media you use, the flush media, and now will you be changing the media, and maybe you can now add on the dish, because people have already seen the dishes you use. So if you can just tell that process till culture, that she wants to know what media, what did you do?
Okay, so I'll just start from the beginning. Like today, I've got a pickup. Okay, so one day before, at least my media should be incubated for around 16 to 17 hours. So one day before the pickup, I just keep all my media that I need for my pickup and my culture. So as I said, medias are mainly divided into four. Now it is gamete media, fertilization media, cleavage media, and blastocyst media. So I'll just come till cleavage, where I'm talking about the embryos. I'm just leaving. We all understood what a blast media is. It's just to grow the embryos from day 3 to day 5. Now, first, on the day of pickup, before the cases are starting, I have to keep my dishes ready. So how will I keep the dishes ready? That means one media which is for gamete, which is for washing the follicular fluid which I am getting. The oocyte cumulus complex is present in that fluid. So one media, that is the gamete media, is used for washing this oocyte cumulus complex so that all the blood clot or whatever it is should be removed. Now after removing, I have to transfer this into a FERT media. Now FERT media is the media, or that was the dish which I was telling. Before the pickup start, you have to already prepare and keep this dish inside the incubator. You have to keep the FERT dish ready inside the incubator with the fertilization media. So once your pickup is done, you have got so much number of oocyte. First you have washed everything, you have washed the blood contaminants, everything, and now suddenly you transfer it into your fertilization media and kept it inside the dish. We normally use a Centerwell dish for this, and we keep it in the incubator. And we leave it in the incubator for at least 1.5 to 2 hours. This is the time period that we give the oocyte, because the oocyte have come from an in vivo to an in vitro condition. So it takes time for them also to adjust, and that is this 1.5 hours to 2 hours. Now after that, we take out the embryo, we take out the oocyte cumulus complex and assess them. While doing the pickup itself, the embryologist might have an imagination of how to do the case, how to go forward with the case. If she says mature, or if she finds we can do both conventional and well as the ICSI, it all depends upon the embryologist. Now I'm just talking about conventional IVF. Now if I want to do a conventional IVF, my OCCs are already present in my fertilization dish. So my only role is to add the prepared semen sample into the dish and keep it in the incubator and leave it for again 16 to 17 hours, and then check for the fertilization the next day. Now when I come the next day, since the cells have already got the oocyte, all the cumulus cells around it, I have to denude the cells, and then I have to check the FERT rate, how many of them have fertilized. So that is how I do in a normal conventional IVF. Whereas if I am going for an ICSI, what I do is that after my 2.5 hours of incubation, I prepare my ICSI dish, and I prepare a separate culture dish which has got my culture media overlaid with oil. Then I denude my oocyte cumulus complex, see the mature oocyte, do my ICSI procedure, and once the ICSI procedure is over, I transfer those oocytes directly into my culture media keep it in the incubator, leave it again for 16 to 17 hours, and next day I come and check the FOD. So this is the two ways of how we are doing a normal conventional IVF as well as a ICSI.
So, I think we also forgot to say that, what is an M2 or a mature oocyte? How do you identify a mature oocyte? So you may have a GV, that is a germinal vesicle. You may have an M1 or you may have an M2. So if you can enlighten on what is an M2 oocyte, and if you were getting a lot of M1, what would you do with them?
Okay. Mostly, M2 oocyte is an oocyte which has got a polar body, intact polar body. It has got the zona pellucida, a polar body is there, and inside a ooplasm. So this is the mature oocyte that we see. Now, what is an M1 oocyte? That is metaphase 1 oocyte. In that, there is no polar body. We know that it is an immature oocyte. But there are chances where even if while the process, while we denuded it, just I'm telling an example. We denuded and we found that we have got two mature, maybe we have got mature oocyte and we have got maybe two immature oocyte, which is in M1 phase. Sometimes if we wait for another half an hour or maybe 1 hour, we can see that that immature oocyte has also become into or transferred into an M2 oocyte. We can do that also, wait for some time and inject them. In other area, if we have got a lot of immature oocyte, then a special media is also coming called in vitro maturation media. We can use that media and grow this or culture this into a mature M2 state and then do the ICSI procedure. So these are the two types. And then we have got the immature. It contains the germinal vesicle also, where you can see a big vacuole-like ring inside the ooplasm, and it will be generally dark in color. So that is actually which can be discarded because there is no process. Sometimes it won't even develop into an M1 oocyte. So such are the germinal vesicles are the oocyte that we normally discard.
And that is the time when the embryologists question the clinicians on the kind of stimulation protocol used. Probably here the quality of drugs used also comes into picture, because if the drugs are substandard, then, and then we start looking at the batch that we've been using. If constantly you find a lot of GVs coming in, then we know that somewhere, there is something which is not working as well and something is wrong. We send back the drugs, we look at the batch that we've been using, and we change the batch. So I think both the clinician and embryologist have to be on the same page. And as you said, maybe somewhere here I would also like to know what about this ICSI? So we look at and also the embryologist, because if you are not looking at 17 or 18 hours post fertilization, then and if you are missing the fertilization, let us say, so if you have missed seeing the 2PN stage, you may miss an extra sperm entering or the anomaly part, So I think it is very, very important that there is somebody who's constantly looking at the right time. And that is where probably the embryo labs machines which have come in, which are also not looking only at the time, they are also looking at the rate of growth of the embryo. So, we know that if the embryo should have become 2-cell at this time, or if they should have become 4-cell at this time, and they are slow or they are fast, then they are not the right embryos. So, when we are looking at the embryo labs machine, then I think it is very important to also say that there should be somebody who should look at 18 hours, look at the fertilization, look at 2PN stage, because we may, miss the 3PN. Sometimes you can see 3PN and then that these are not the right embryos, and we may be putting in anomalous embryos later on. So it is very, very important, I think, not to miss that. And how do you decide on the amount of media to be incubated? Saima's asking, then this is a very nice question. I was also going to question you on that. So how do you know how much media? And let me also take this opportunity to say that media is very expensive. Why are the IVF cycles expensive? Because approximately 15,000 rupees of media plus consumables, everything is disposable. This is going to go. into the cost of the IVF procedure. So, Angel, if you can tell, what is the amount of media to be put in the, a day before? How much culture or how much flushing? What kind of, how do you do that?
Okay. Ma'am, depending upon or if you are asking me the amount of media that you are using, for example, I would say for one pickup, the amount of flushing media that I required may be 10 or 12 ml. So in a 14 ml tube, for flushing the buffer and washing it, I need 12 ml of flushing media. And then when it comes to my FERD media, if I'm using a center well dish, the center well can contain around 0.7 ml of media. 0.7 ml of media. And then around in the moat also, I put around 2 ml of media. And I generally make, if it depends upon them, if they are making 2 dishes, 1 dish, it all depends upon that person. And over here in general, I would tell you can keep at least 3 ml of FERD media for one case, and then for cleavage media or the culture media also, you can keep 2 ml for one patient. So this will be, then it depends whether you are doing a drop culture or a group culture. If it is a group culture, for example, if you are using in a center well, again, it's just 0.7 of the media. Okay. And then in the moat, you can put 1 or 2 ml of the media just to wash the eggs and then place it in fresh media. So in general view, I would say flushing media or the follicle buffer media, I would like to take maybe 12 ml for one patient, and FERD media around 3 ml for one patient, and culture media around 2 ml for one patient.
Perfect, perfect. So that means around approximately 15 ml of media, 10, 3 and 2 ml is,
yes.
is required.
And just I want to put one more point in that. While we were talking about the injections, as Dr. Rita was telling, that injections do play an important role, and we have to even give importance to the temperature at which these media and these injections are kept. Sometimes if your fridge temperature is not maintained, normally, ideally, all these things, all these hormonal injections should be kept in between 4 to 8 degrees. But sometimes if you don't give a normal check on your refrigerator, that too can actually give you a huge loss. So please keep a monitor on your on a daily basis on your fridge, whether it is used for injections or whether it is used to keep your media. These are very important things.
Extremely important, Angel. I'm very happy that you pointed, because many a time we are assuming our fridge to be refrigerators to be working well, but if you look at the temperature inside, it is not 2 to 8 as it should be. Now, Dr. Bajpai is also asking, what is the average number of embryos you expect by, so this is the media that you said 10, 3 and 2 ml as we said. How many embryos, average number, do you think will this amount of media take care? So
10 to 12.
10 to 12 embryos.
Well,
okay.
yes.
So I think this is what if we are expecting say 30 embryos, then we should double our
Okay.
media.
Yes.
If we are expecting only 1 or 2 eggs, so maybe we should half our media. I think it is very, very important. Dr. Bajpai, this is a very nice question that you put in, because this is important. Also, I asked you about, Angel, about rescue ICSI. So you come,
Yes,
you come the next day and you see you are expecting, you have injected the sperm into the oocyte, and the next day you see it has still not fertilized. Do you believe in rescue ICSI, and what are the results that you also see in that?
Okay. Now coming to rescue ICSI, I would say that mostly I have done rescue ICSI, I have got embryos, but I cannot say or I cannot demand any positives or result out of this rescue ICSI. And this rescue ICSI mostly happens when you keep your embryos for normal conventional IVF.
Okay.
So we assume that in conventional IVF, normally we keep the immature, what we feel like immature ones. And once we keep them, after 17 hours, you come, you denude it, and you still see maybe just an M1 oocyte. At this stage, what I do normally in my lab is I leave it again for maybe 1 hour or maybe 2 hours. And if I see that it's changing into or it's coming up into as a mature M2 oocyte, then yes, I do a rescue ICSI. Sometimes I have seen maybe 2 or 3, I do a rescue ICSI, I get embryos, but I cannot say that I've got a successful pregnancy out of the rescue ICSI. Always the ICSI on the first day, or always we give importance to that only, to those embryos.
So I think you're right. Rescue ICSI sometimes does give you a satisfaction
Embryo.
that yes, you
Yes.
have got an embryo, but the fact that as far as results are concerned, they are not being very great. So it's very, very important to keep checking your lab and doing quality auditing of your lab. You know, changing your HEPA filters and looking at the rest of the parameters in the lab, including the cultures which have been to be sent frequently. Now, Dr. Bajpayee is also asking, is it prudent enough to go ICSI for all, or you believe in half-half, or you want to do a conventional, you have a good-looking sperm, you have a good egg. Do you believe in doing ICSI, or would you be doing a conventional IVF and take your chances?
Okay, ma'am, this is also a very good question. I would never suggest anyone to go for an all ICSI because it depends upon your oocyte quality, it depends upon your sperm, and if you have got good mature oocyte, good sperm, good motility, good count, everything, then of course you can try for a conventional IVF. And we in our lab, I think Dr. Rita, we both have seen beautiful embryos, beautiful pregnancies, good number of pregnancies, even with conventional IVF. So in this case, what I could suggest to the whoever, maybe most of the embryologists are doing in this manner. If you have good number of embryos, say maybe 15 or 18, out of that, while doing the pickup itself, the embryologist will be able to analyze which are the mature and which are the immature ones. So you can do a mix of both. You can do an ICSI, you can do an IVF as well. You can split and do ICSI and IVF and see the outcome.
So I believe, I agree with you, you know, for run-by-mill embryologists, they really prefer doing an ICSI for all and run away because they are not there to see after 18 hours for it occurred or not occurred. So in those cases, those are the embryologists who really believe in doing ICSI for all. Rest of the embryologists who are there and who should prudently be seeing, you know. So we are absolutely not for ICSI for all. We would look at the quality of gametes, and if both are looking good, putting a conventional IVF probably will make much more sense than doing ICSI for all. So that's the take that we.
One more into
Yeah.
that is that which point which I would like to add is that you might be able to see by checking the count. You will be thinking that wow, the sperm sample has got beautiful parameters, like it includes count, it has got motility, everything. But make sure that you give importance to the morphology also, because you may have a lot of sperm, but the sperm with a good morphology, that is the most important thing. Because if the morphology is not good, even if it is having more motility, if it has got a neck defect or a head defect, if the acrosome part is more or something like that, it is going to affect the embryo, and even not even embryo, even the fur tray. So make sure that you assess the morphology in a good manner and then go for this, whether you have to do a conventional or an ICSI.
Right. So that's very well taken. And if you can just wind up by giving a little bit of audit of the lab that you do, you know, how to culture, what you do exactly.
Yes, ma'am. So what I would like to do is that maintaining an IVF lab, it includes both the andrology and the embryology lab. It's like taking care of your own baby. You are growing the babies there, but it's like you have to take care of the lab also like a baby. You have to take care of it. You have to look into each and every aspect. Cleaning should be done by the embryo in the presence of the embryologist. You cannot let anyone else take care of your baby. You have to be there, be with the person who is cleaning. You have to do a cleaning. It will be better every day. There is a cleaning, but every week or maybe twice, it depends upon the workload of your lab. You have to do an alcohol cleaning, that is called a deep cleaning, where the entire stuff, including the ceiling, the wall, the floor, everything should be cleaned with alcohol, but make sure that your lab should be free for at least 2 to 3 days. Because once you are using, lab should be free in the sense the incubators should not even contain a single embryo, because alcohol is lethal for the embryos. So make sure once your lab is free, you have to have a discussion with your clinician and make sure that you line up in such a way that there is no cases at all, maybe for 2 3 days. Then you do the alcohol cleaning. Once the entire one day you have to do the alcohol cleaning, the entire area, which includes the andrology lab, embryology lab, the OT, the recovery area, everything. The next day you have to clean with distilled water. Not one day, the 2 days continuously. You have to clean it in the morning, in the evening with distilled water. The next day again, come in the morning, clean it with distilled water, in the evening, distilled water. After that, you have to check your lab also by doing a culture of your lab. You have to take swabs, you have to take culture plates, you have to order them from your path lab, get it, and do the culture of each and every area, which includes the wall, the floor, the incubator, inside of the incubator, your ICSI machine, your laminar flow, your air purifier, air filter, which includes the andrology also, entire area. We have to keep that. We have to take the culture. We have to take the culture plates also, give it to the path lab and wait for the result and see the result. If everything is coming perfect, that means your baby is in good condition. But if you see a slight growth everywhere, then you have to repeat the procedure and make sure there is no growth anywhere in your lab, because all these things are going to be lethal for your embryos which you are growing in the lab. And make sure you maintain the registers. Every day you come in the morning, you have to check the temperature. You should have a temperature meter. You should check the temperatures. You have to check your cylinder levels. You have to check everything, including, this includes the cryo tanks also. Some people, they just see the temperature, they just take the temperature of maybe your laminar flow, the ICSI area, or maybe the test tube bombers, everything. But the cryo can will be left as such. It's really going to be dangerous for the embryos also. So please make sure your cryo tanks are full. It should be refilled every week. You should keep a note of it. You should have your booklet or your audit or your diary where you have all these readings, everyday readings should be mentioned, and this should be taken care of by the lab person, whether it's an embryologist or there is an andrologist, whoever is there, you have to take care of it on a daily basis. So these are some of the points which I would like to add on to the QC and QA.
Yeah. So this is for people who are trying to set up their IVF lab, on how to look after the labs also, and what a personal level check is required. You can't leave it to your house keeper to expect him to and then get good results. So it is very important. As far as COVID-19 is concerned, we're living in that era. Besides using a PEP kit, we have still not really been able to. Very few studies are saying the egg and the sperm may be carrier, so that means some kind of transmission. Most of the studies which came from China, Wuhan, said that there was no carrier state either on the sperm or on the egg or on the embryo, and therefore it was okay to become pregnant and have babies. Now few reports are, and because so much time has not passed, so in the last 5-6 months, whatever number of deliveries that have happened, now they say ACE2 receptors are present on the testicles, and COVID-19 may be able to. So probably what one can do is, because we know we can't wait for the next 1.5-2 years till the whole COVID pandemic will last. So everybody started working. Oh yeah, we are using all your precautions, disposables to the level of, what we were doing with HIV, kind of a, same kind of disposables you're using in your OT. You are using a PEP, your PPE kit. And so besides all that, I think what we can probably do is, what we have done in our lab is also keeping right now the cases that we are doing in a separate container. So we are not trying to, mix up the, especially the cryo freezing that we have to do. We're not trying to, we've kept a separate container just so that we are protecting the embryos which have been formed previously. So I think, let me wish all of you hearing here today very safe and secure home, and please take all the care that you can. And this year is going to be tough, and but this is how we are all going to survive and work together and win over. Thank you so much, everybody, for hearing us out, and we'll be happy if you can, even because we are on live on Facebook also today. So if you would like any other topic which would interest all of you, you can probably also give us ideas. We, of course, from our side are going to continue this education series and bring in more education. Thank you so much once again. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.